We are talking about the greater good.
Hey there! Welcome to Skatz Chats, your destination for inspiration. Each episode, I chat with mental health professionals and everyday people just like you and me to talk about various wellness topics and the human experience. Get ready to feel inspired with another episode of... Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Skatz Chats podcast. I'm so excited that you're here with me to check out another episode of our mental health and wellness show. My name is Sarah Katz, and I'm the host of this podcast. And on today's episode, I bring on Sandi, who is the author of Finding Eco-Happiness. And in today's episode, we're going to talk all about the actual science behind why we're so connected to nature and how nature truly links to mental health. And I learned so much from talking to Sandi, and we're going to learn so much together because she talks about ions and color psychology and all these other things that really make sense and line up to how we actually feel when we're out in nature. And she also provides some tips and tricks on how to become more mindful and create a true relationship with nature, with the ocean, with trees, with the sky, however you feel connected to nature. This is your go-to episode for all these tips and tricks, and I'm so excited for you to listen. Before we get into that episode, you can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. Just look us up, Skatz Chats. That's SKATZCHATS. And we also record video versions of this podcast too. If you didn't know, you could check us out on YouTube. Just search Skatz Chats and give us a subscribe and like us as well. And if you want to get some merch like this really cool hat right here, and also we have these cute stickers, so cute for water bottles, laptops. You can go to our website, which is www.skatzchats.com. So all the ways you can go and support us. We really appreciate everything. And leave us a comment, DM us on one of our social platforms. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to hear one of your New Year's resolutions as well. And we would love to support you through that also. So without further ado, let's get into this episode with Sandi, all about nature and how much we can learn from nature and why we are so connected to our Mother Earth. Enjoy. Thank you so much, Sandi, for coming on to Skatz Chats. I really appreciate you being here. I want to give the floor to you to introduce yourself to the audience and say a little bit more about you and what you do and why you would like to come on this podcast today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here.
Sure.
And my name is Sandi Schwartz. I am an award-winning author, a freelance journalist, and a mom. And I focus on environmental writing. And especially what we're going to talk about today is the intersection of nature and mental health. And my book, Finding Eco-Happiness, was all about that. But I also write about some other environmental topics. I've been writing a lot for like home and garden for bobvila.com, Mind Body Green. I really cover green living and sustainability. So it all goes hand in hand. And my big message is that if we recognize the benefits of nature, hopefully we will protect it.
Good point. Yeah, I feel like this green way of living, or like living in the best way possible to take care of our planet, is not so much like talked about or emphasized, I feel like, now. So I think today's going to be really important to live more of a lifestyle that's hand in hand with nature and really understand the benefits, not only just with your lifestyle, but also with mental health and things like that too. So that's really cool that you're an author, you wrote a book about that, you've studied it and all that other stuff. Awesome. So I know we're going to talk about how specifically nature connects with mental health. So, I mean, it's pretty generic. I know that it's a common thing where people are like, oh, just get outside, take a walk. But I really want to like dive into, I guess, more of like the why behind it. Why are those two connected? Like, what's the real kind of science or like connection there?
Yeah, well, right. Like for generations, for hundreds of years, we've known that being outside is beneficial. Like anecdotally, I mean, when you think about where you're going on vacation, a lot of the times it's to the mountains or to a lake or to the beach, of course. And oh yeah, because it makes us feel better, and we just love that environment. So what's really fascinating about this area of research, and why I thought it was such an opportune time to write a book about it, is that there's so much more data and scientific backing about why. Okay. And so I like to describe it as the multi-sensory experience. And then you kind of pick apart each of those senses, and then you look at the research behind all of those and how they are beneficial to our well-being. So for example, colors. You know, we hear a lot about, you know, what colors to use for, you know, a calming bedroom, or, you know, a restaurant, or wherever we want to, you know, there's a lot of, like, there are actually color psychologists out there. Well, it turns out that what nature provides, mostly blues and greens, those are the most calming colors. So it's kind of neat that, you know, the nature, that what's there naturally is beneficial to us, and we never even realized it, right? So if you're looking for a calming bedroom, you want to really choose those pale blues and green colors, because that's what's going to be more soothing for you. So
very interesting.
Yeah. And color. So color is one of the reasons why when we go outside and we look up at this, you know, beautiful big blue sky, you know, that makes us feel calmer. Another thing visually, this is interesting. There's a thing called fractal patterns.
Okay.
And so there's lots, if you really step back and you're mindful and you look outside, you will notice so many patterns. If you look at a leaf, if you look at the tree bark, even if you look at how the ocean waves come crashing in, and all of those patterns they found, you know, they hook people up, you know, to their brain and watch their brain waves. And when they see these patterns, it's calming, it's soothing, and we're attracted to them. And our eyes, you know, are actually, you know, kind of directed to them. Again, it's like, you know, we're animals. This is all innate.
Right, exactly. I mean, we do, you know, also like are a part of nature in general, but that's really interesting about the colors and patterns. And that makes so much sense where, like if you see, you know, when you go to your local, like Lowe's or, you know, like home and garden place, and you see all these different like little pots of flowers and they're all colorful, like you're drawn to that naturally. And that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and you know, there's a whole area of, when I think about color, I think of rainbows. So there's another really fascinating area of research, which is actually quite cutting edge, and they're still trying to figure out, is the emotion of awe. And there's a real connection between, you know, nature and awe. I mean, we can experience awe in other ways, like, you know, at a concert, or science experiments, or looking at space, which to me, space is nature too. But there's so many opportunities to feel that, you know, that emotion of awe and wonderment, and just kind of like, wow, right? It just, you know, you can even have like a chill, you can have, you know, tears brought to your eyes when you see a rainbow or the Grand Canyon, or, you know, anything that's just so inspiring that nature provides. So again, when you're feeling awe, you are not going to be able to feel anxiety at the same time. That's what the scientists have found. So it's sort of like, it's good to seek out those awe experiences and those nature connections to balance all that stress and anxiety that we feel.
Yeah, very interesting. And I know that a lot of different companies, I know this place where I take yoga, they do these like couple-day retreats, and they always go to some nature place. And that makes total sense, where that's where you would go to, you know, do your reflecting and thinking and all that good stuff. So it makes sense how that's so, I guess, connected, and that awe moment too. So I guess, well, I guess I can ask you, like, what's your favorite place in nature that you like to go to experience like that connection and that awe for yourself?
I think, well, there's certain places I've been that are unbelievable. Like when we were in Hawaii for our honeymoon, and we were in a helicopter, and that was the most incredible. I mean, we were flying by the waterfalls in the side of the mountain, you know, so that's not something you're going to see every day.
Yeah.
But something I have a little bit more access to is the ocean. You know, I could just stand and stare at the ocean for a long time, or really just even simpler, like go outside on a balcony or your backyard and look up at the clouds. And it's the real trick, and I try to tell people, it's all about being in the moment and practicing that mindfulness in that simple way, that you don't have to actually sit and meditate, for 10 minutes, 30 minutes and so structured and forced. It's literally just like step outside and look around and take in a breath of fresh air, and really like see the flowers, see the leaves, see the clouds. That's the trick, because that's where the benefits come. And, it counteracts all of this technology that we are constantly involved with and bombarded with.
That's so true. I think we need more of that balance, because we always are looking at like squares and screens. And I mean, right now we're looking at a screen, a square, but this is for a greater purpose.
I try to add some nature, right?
Right. Yeah, I see that. It looks good. And I have like flowers over here, even though they're fake, but whatever. But yeah, I think we as humans just need more of that balance of, we need some time to go outside, and wherever that looks like, the ocean or mountains or your own backyard, for example. And the thing is too, I think is the most important is that it's free too. It's not like you have to pay to go outside. Like, it's just there for you,
And even if you live in the busiest city in in New York City, there's still opportunities to find green space. And then again, like things that, botanical gardens and nature, science museums and little corners where people they're growing, vegetables in pots, all of that. And actually, it's funny, you bring up a big, an interesting point when it comes to the fake flower
yes.
behind you. I actually just wrote, because I had a big question, and I pitched an article, and I wrote the article. I did all the research. Can fake plants serve that same purpose as regular? And it turns out mostly, right? Like, obviously, you don't get the fragrance, and you may not get the same texture, but visually, it's the same thing as art. If you decorate your indoor environment with nature items, even a fake plant, you're still getting some of those benefits, because our brain's going, oh, look at that pretty flower, that pretty plant, or that pretty scenery. And so definitely keep that in mind. You don't have to be immersed in nature all the time to have those benefits.
Very interesting, because I was just thinking too, like, how can someone, decorate their space if they don't want, because I know for me, I don't like to have live plants in the house just because they bring bugs and, those little things. But that's very interesting how like fake plants can also kind of mostly, bring that benefit too.
Yeah, I mean, you could merge the fake plant with some incense, essential oils, and there you go. I mean, that's another scent. The scents are a big benefit, to us, whether it's essential oils or smelling an orange or smelling the roses, like all of that too is that other, adds on to that multi-sensory experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, well, I have like a little corner. Obviously you can't see it because the screen is facing this way, but I have a little like reflection corner. And I think that I've seen a lot of like on Pinterest and things like that with home decor. People have like these little meditation corners, or like, their corner with their plants, or just a little kind of corner that they go to kind of recharge. And whether that has, I guess, real or fake plants in it, it's always like, I guess, a good idea maybe for someone to think about doing that in their own home.
Yeah, and also I would encourage to find what's called a sit spot outside. So another place, if the weather's fine, to try to go outside for a little bit of a break. You can even bring your laptop and do your work outside. I mean, just having that fresh air and hearing the birds chirping, it's soaking into us, and it's helping us feel happier and calmer. So, you can use both tools, but the sit spot, it's kind of cool too, because, it's like that place you go back to. And it could be at a local park, or it could be in your backyard, or even a little, corner of your balcony or something.
Interesting. Yeah, like that one space that like you're like called to when you want to return back to. That's cute. I like that. And there was a point that you mentioned too, where, you don't, like you mentioned before, you don't have to do a structured meditation when you're outside. There was this one point where I went to, it's called the Huntington Library. Yeah, Huntington Library in California. It's like a botanical garden. They have different like rose gardens, like Japanese garden, all those different things. And I went for a day, like a little solo field trip. And I was thinking, okay, like, what do I want to accomplish today? What am I going to do today? And then I was thinking, like, no, I don't have to necessarily accomplish anything. I could just enjoy being here. There doesn't have to be a certain like problem that I have to feel like I need to resolve. It's just kind of that break from screens and from everyday life, I guess, too.
It's interesting you bring that up because I was just telling my husband the other day that the older I get, I feel like, and maybe it's just the busier life is, or just the more options we have in life, which seems to have grown the older I've gotten, is that it's actually so much harder to add a new habit in. And really, like, when I try to do a habit and I'll like do it for a couple of weeks, and a lot of it puts too much pressure on myself. So like when I did try to meditate every morning, like I was too sleepy, like it didn't work for me. And then when I did in the afternoon, I would fall asleep on my bed. So for me, what works is literally my mindfulness time is a walk outside, you know? And so you have to find what works for you. And the trick, and for anxiety, and I've been trying to manage my anxiety for a long time now, is that, and you know, all the advice, don't eat that, do this, you know, you could go nuts just trying to follow all the rules to lower your anxiety. But if you're an anxious person, the best thing I've found is to just be, right? And just enjoy, like you said, just go somewhere and see what you find, and don't make a plan. And I used to be the biggest planner, and
I am too now.
Well, I noticed since the pandemic, my planning skills have kind of gone out the window, but which has its pros and cons. You know, I still get all my work done, but you know, socially, I'm not really a planner. I was like, okay, you know, whatever comes. And you know, I think it helps with anxiety to kind of just enjoy the moment when you can.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think in a broader perspective, I always think too, like, what's the rush? You know, what's the rush to do something? I guess like there's this other kind of side hustle thing that I wanted to start. And I'm kind of like, wait, I shouldn't feel pressured to do this. I should actually want to do it. So I should be in the right mindset to actually do it. But I guess that's another conversation. But it's just kind of like, you know, we have all this time still to do things that we want to do. And we don't necessarily have to like plan out every single day, you know, as totally structured, and just kind of be free flowing. And like you said, just be here and enjoy the earth that you're on too.
Yeah. And I know this is a tangent away from nature, but one of the things I had to learn to manage my anxiety is that to accept that I am a control freak, you know, like I love control, and I loved everything. And then having very high expectations. And so if you plan all that out and say, I'm going to go to this botanical garden, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to stay there for this long, and it doesn't work out, now you're harder on yourself because you didn't accomplish all that. And the best moments are probably like when you just stood there and saw a beautiful rose and kind of lost track of where you were. And so I think nature can help us do that by just kind of staring and enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, you know, if for people out there who have children too, I think maybe it's a good balance to find with their kids too, of like, because I know it seems to be like the trend more is to give your toddler like an iPad to shut them up. I mean, like I got my first cell phone when I was like 10, and now these younger kids are just having screens in front of them all the time. And I personally don't think it's very good for our young generations. But how can parents find ways to balance that technology with, you know, having that outside time with their kids?
Yeah, it's challenging. You know, I think there's lots of different ways to look at it. So if you're starting from, you know, scratch with as far as the kid is like always on technology, and you can't, you know, go out to play, child, and they don't go, and you know, it doesn't work that way. I think you can build a bridge from tech to outdoors by using apps that connect them to nature. You know, there's some really cool ways that you go outside and you like take pictures of a tree or the flowers, and then it tells them the species and gives them information, get them involved in what's called citizen science projects. So that's, you know, an avenue to kind of, you know, lure them outside. But you can also, you know, negotiate screen time for green time and make sure that they're balancing that. You can add, again, habits that hopefully don't become like annoying. It's more like, hey, let's do our homework outside, or let's eat dinner outside, or let's go for a walk between, when you come home from school and you have to start your homework. Find that, like my son, he's 14, and, a habit he kind of picked up starting in the pandemic, where he was online a lot and doing online learning. And then even now, he's like, okay, I had a busy day and I have this work to do. He'll go play basketball, or he'll go for a run around the neighborhood. And it's such a healthy pattern, because I had to nudge him on it. Like, I had to explain to him, he doesn't get phys ed anymore in school. He doesn't have recess.
Yeah.
And he's going to be, before we know it, he'll be in college. He needs to build in these, habits, fitness routines himself. And I explained when I was in college what I would do. And, he was reluctant at first. And now he's like, okay, I'm off. And it's good for the parent too, because, when they're little, you don't want to let them out of your sight. But now as they get older, you got to let them go. And I have to let him just, go out and run around and do what he needs to do. And so it's a healthy change for the parent and the child.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Kind of like, as they say, like loosening the leash almost,
Yeah.
kind of like letting him kind of find his own in his teenage years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm 45. And so when I grew up, we used to go play in the woods. We used to ride our bikes all over the place. I mean, I can't believe I was crossing major highways. I say to my mom, what in the world, where were you? Because like there were not phones, and I would be gone for hours and hours. I'm lucky to be alive, thinking about it in today's terms. But for some reason, my generation of parents just like, we're like so scared. And a lot of it has to do with the news cycle. Everything's all blown out of proportion, when it's really actually, I think, safer than it was back then.
Yeah, I remember my mom mentioning too that she would always say that she and her sisters need to get back before the street lights come on.
Yeah.
So that's when they know that like dinner was like soup was on or something like that. But yeah, I do remember like that, previous generations like used to go play outside so much more. And I think, just with technology, it's just, has a lot of issues, but a lot of good things. There's pros and cons and everything, but
yeah, it's all about balance.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so an author by the name of Richard Louv, actually about 20 years or so, he wrote a book all about what he called nature deficit disorder. And that's what sort of spurred this interest in, and he talks more broadly, not just about mental health, but obesity and ADHD, and how nature, they found nature can help obviously with issues like, health and getting out there and running around more, but also, ironically enough, being outdoors actually helps kids focus more, and all of us actually focus more. You would think it would be a distraction, but there's something about, again, that like multi-dimensional world, multi-sensory experience that helps us relax and then focus. We're more creative, we're more productive. Lots of benefits to nature.
I was just going to say creative. Yeah, when I go on my walks, I'm like, oh, wait, that's a good idea. Maybe I should write that down. So yeah, that's very true. I noticed that. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think nature can bring in its benefits. I think definitely to getting some natural sun, like that good, vitamin D in, not too much, obviously, to where you get sunburned, but I think that's really healing for our bodies as well, too.
Yeah, and the fresh air. And there's actually also, I talk about negative ions. This is fascinating and kind of cutting edge too. And some of the research, it's not 100% at this point, but that there's like energy in the air, let's say after a rainstorm. When we breathe in that air, like that helps calm us down as well. You can also get that like if you're standing at a waterfall or at the ocean, and you can kind of like understand, right? Like, oh, when I went to Niagara Falls, it's just this refreshing feeling that makes you feel better. And so they're really trying to pinpoint the science of it, but it's called negative ions.
Very interesting. And I think it also kind of humbles us and brings us back to that feeling of that we're just one person, we're so small, and our problems really don't matter as much in the grand scheme of things, because like, we're just one little ant, if you will, on this giant, huge planet of, nature and beauty. So I think that's really humbling too.
Yes. And that's a big concept of awe, is that perspective of the vastness. And you're right, it kind of grounds you. It makes you appreciate and be more grateful of your surroundings and what your place here. And that's also helped me with my anxiety, because I actually have this vision. The New York Natural Sciences Museum, they had this really cool, like this walkway, kind of like it's a spiral walkway, and it shows like how life kind of was created, and like the timeline of life essentially. And like, let's say when the Big Bang happened, and then where humanity is. And then it also shows like the different like species of different animals that have come and gone over time. And you get to humanity, and it's like this little tiny speck on this time frame. And I sometimes, if I'm feeling anxious or like about some stupid thing, really, when you think about it, I put it in that perspective, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like humanity has hardly even been here when you think about it. So yeah, I think nature helps us realize that, and all the animals that have come and gone before us. And
yeah, 100%. That's interesting. So that's actually in a museum in New York, you said?
Yeah, like the Natural Sciences Museum, like that famous museum that they had that movie. Isn't that with the movie where they slept over in the museum?
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, yeah. I don't remember what
Night
the
at the
movie was called.
Museum or something.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Interesting. I'll have to go check that out if I'm ever in New York. But yeah, very cool. Like yeah, it's those things where it's like there's so many living natural beings that have come before us and will come after us too, and just kind of put things in perspective. And maybe, yeah, that does help with our anxiety, where it's kind of like our problems don't matter right now. All that matters right now is just kind of soaking in this energy from the earth, and also like whatever, deity you believe in, just kind of having that reminder of that the universe or God or whoever is always there to support you too. I find that whenever I'm in nature as well.
Yes, it's very spiritual for a lot of people. That's for sure. It's a connection, and it's just like I keep using the word awe, but it's just awe-inspiring, because you can't even put into words in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I mean, even if you are watching an animal, whether in person or on a screen, it's kind of like you're like, whoa, like there was this time we were actually at the Oregon Zoo, and there was an orangutan, and my kids and I were so enthralled watching this guy, because he was like human, and he's swinging around, and it was like he was communicating and talking to us. We were just blown away.
Yeah.
It's moments like those that realize it kind of puts things in perspective too.
Yeah, really interesting seeing how like similar they are to us, and just how smart animals could be too, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, super smart. Yeah. And I think one thing too that people might be, or something that might be beneficial to people, is to kind of research, what parks are near them, or what kind of like federal national parks are near them too, because there's a lot of things I think that are free to go to. And I know that the Huntington that I mentioned before is not free. But there's ways that you can just kind of go out and have like a little free reflection therapy session with yourself, and just kind of explore and experience what comes to mind when you actually are immersed in a really beautiful place.
Yeah, definitely start with your own town or city. There's lots of green spaces, and mostly for free. I'm in Florida, and we have these great kind of parks where there's a boardwalk, and kind of through a marshy area, and then you walk around, so you're getting the exercise, and you're seeing all these beautiful birds and other species. Sometimes even an alligator will pop up. But you're safe because you're on the boardwalk. And then state parks and national parks. And national parks sometimes actually there are a few holidays throughout the year that they have like free, you can visit for free. And then there's also botanical gardens and butterfly gardens and museums, and even just communities. Look up your local gardening club, and a lot of them have these really cool tours. I did that this summer in New Jersey, because we're up there in the summer, and you would go like from house to house. They give you a map, and you get to see these incredible gardens that different people put together in their own yards, and you're like, wow, like you're so inspired by it's a whole art in itself.
Yeah.
So there's so many. I have checklists in my book where you can, see all kinds of, because I have different chapters like creative arts, mindfulness, food, animals, gratitude. And so I've kind of created these checklists based on those topics. So if you love art, there's tons of ways to connect to nature in an artistic way. And so maybe you want to explore those. Or if you're an adventurer, then you can, get out there and paddleboard or hike. Or, there's really something for everyone. And that's the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's a perfect segue too. I was just going to ask if people want to find your book or look into more about what you do and everything like that, where can people go check you out at?
Sure, I might as well show the cover, right?
So. Ooh, there you go. Perfect. Finding eco happiness. I love that. And cute little kids out there. And that's the beauty, is like they look so happy out in nature and not on screens, right?
Exactly. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So it's officially a parenting book, but honestly, I've got a lot of feedback. It's really for everybody. It's filled with the science behind all of this, of why certain foods we eat are soothing to us, why gardening is calming, why dancing outside or doing yoga outside can also, this is all the benefits. And then again, there's the checklist and other resources. But so I have that book. I also have a children's book called Sky's Search for Eco Happiness, which is great if you have little kids and you want to introduce the idea of, how to address emotional challenges through nature. It's a great solution. And then, so my website is ecohappinessproject.com. And I also have tons of blog posts and other interviews like this up there, and a free quiz and a free checklist and free calendar. So yeah, definitely hop on over and immerse yourself in the beauty of nature.
Awesome. Yeah, I might even have to check out that book myself. And we'll put all that information too in the episode description so that people can easily go out and copy and paste that web link and all that good stuff. So awesome. Yeah. Sounds like some really good stuff in there that I think people can really check out and, learn from more even after listening to this episode too. So
yeah. And my biggest tip is to start with what you already love and go from there, because you may already be being a photographer, but maybe you're taking pictures of people or buildings. And I'm going to encourage you to start taking pictures of flowers and trees, because you're getting those health benefits while you're doing that activity. So.
Yeah, very interesting. So there's little tweaks that we can, make or change, I guess, to kind of immerse ourselves more into nature. So very cool. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sandi, for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was a really fun chat. I even learned more about things. I'm going to explore what else is in my area that I can go check out. And cool. Yeah, if you would like to come on anytime, you're welcome to talk about anything else. And yeah, thanks so much again. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Find out more about us at www.skatzchats.com. Special thanks to NK Arts, who designed our logo, Daddy Lakis for writing and producing our theme song, Joe Papadenitz for branding photos, and our friend Abby for social media.